Good afternoon. Welcome to another Super Secret Project sketch. This is Eric Whalen from Super Secret Project X. I'm getting it down. It took me a while, but I'm getting there. All right. Gotta tell you, I'm gonna be real honest with you at the minute. I was setting the whole stream up. I'm ready to rock and roll. I'm good. I don't normally get to watch my streaming shows when they're on because they're streaming shows. And so I just started the first episode of the Elseworld episodes of The Flash and Arrow and such. And I'm stuck right in the middle of the first episode, and I just got done laughing for like 5-10 straight minutes. And I'm in a super good mood, but I'm in a super good mood wanting to watch Elseworlds. However, instead, I'll do something just as good, just as good, just as good. It's good. It's better. It's better. I'm going to draw Speedy Gonzalez today. Why? Because I was in a conversation with my workmates about Speedy Gonzalez earlier. Then I realized I've never drawn Speedy Gonzalez, so I'm gonna draw this little dude. I used to love this character when I was a kid, you know? And look, I'm not going to sit there and say, it's not culturally insensitive, or it is culturally insensitive. I'm not going to say. That's really up to the Hispanic community. But what I do know is when I was a kid, I loved this dude. I always thought he was the funniest guy. Well, one of them. I mean, I also like the coyote. I really like the coyote. I should draw the coyote. Anywho, I'm gonna draw Speedy because God, he's just such a funny character. He was basically I think I always kind of equated him as kind of like the Roadrunner, but he could talk, and that's the one thing about the Roadrunner that's funny is that like tapping on a bottle sound that he made when he made kind of neat noises, but with Speedy. No, admittedly, it's from the memories of a kid, and since you don't have any like Mexican people around, he was like my first Mexican dude, and I loved Speedy. I don't know, like all the Hispanic fans I bumped into, all were all like, yeah, man, they like him too. Can you tell I want Speedy to come back? I kind of miss this character. Anyway, I'm gonna sketch me a super fast mouse. Thing that I love about these old characters is if you can nail the first couple shapes that they were based off of. Because clearly, when you're animating something, you don't want to sit there and make every frame something that takes 20 minutes to draw. You want to have each frame done pretty quick because you have to draw like 24, 32 images per second times the length of the show, and that just ends up being a lot of drawings. So if you could just nail the first couple shapes that they'd put down, God, those guys were just masters at just nailing one really good shape after another. I mean, if you could get those shapes down, and you can get the angles down, which is what I'm trying to do right now, but since I've never drawn Speedy, I kind of have to figure him out a little bit, I'm kind of going off of that one right there. Kind of like that kind of heroic, proud one. Some of the others are cute too, but I kind of like that one. I'm going to open up his eyes though, but I like that facial angle. And what I'm kind of doing is he's got cheek meat. I got 2 days in a row of talking about cheek meat. It's kind of awesome. I had a cheek meat dilemma on her yesterday, and I've got not so much of a dilemma, but a mild cheek meat situation. So what I've got is he's clearly got like these nice little pockets of get right up there. Little pockets of meat in a smile, that stuff. And you can go in and you can put lines down, um, which if you're good at doing that, you can totally nail it pretty quick. But since I'm trying to figure out where stuff is, what I'm just going to do is going to put a quick circle in, or oval, oval. Um, and that will kind of allow me to figure out like where some of the parts are, because you can always erase it later. It's no big deal. And then I can go in and put in like the snout shape. I think the idea is, instead of just trying to guess your way through lines, most of this stuff is literally just circles and quick lines that they put down. And it was never designed to be a complicated design. It was always designed to be like circle, circle, line, cylinder, circle, circle, line, cylinder, boom, 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 and then the characters would come together. Because, well, I mean, Speedy Gonzales aside, speed was the point of assembling these characters, which always just meant that when they got really good at doing it, there was like just sort of an innate flow that happened when the characters would come together. So what I'm trying to do is figure out kind of the shapes that they were using. And then place my more permanent lines, the few that will remain will just kind of, follow the contours and such, and end up actually erasing quite a bit here. What I love though is you can still technically see, like, I know it's a cartoon mouse, but like the skull under the anatomy, because these guys knew knew how to actually, draw. That's what I always found kind of insulting, is when I talked to artists and then they'd roll their eyes when they would talk about cartoons or cartoonists, and I'm going like, I don't think you should be doing that, because the people that were actually animating really did know their stuff. It's just that what they were putting down on the paper was very simple. But I can look on here and I can see the bone edge of his eye socket. I mean, that's why I'm putting these shapes here in, because I'm kind of going like, he's got an eye socket. In that eye socket is an eyeball, And so what I'm going to do is, his eyes are closed in the original version. I'm going to go in and open them up because I want to see Speedy's eyes. So I always loved his eyes. He always had like that little flat, squinty underside to it. Always made it look like he knew something. Because he usually did. And when I was younger, I totally didn't understand what the adults were saying about how, stuff that they loved was suddenly hated. And now I'm kind of bumping into it, where we even had a discussion at work, and it was a good one, by the way, so don't think that the gentlemen I was talking to is I'm remotely railing on, because it was an interesting conversation. But it was still a it wasn't they were taking a side or anything. It was a conversation about, like, for example, Speedy Gonzales, appropriate or not, and then that quickly turned into the more of the modern day one, because that was really a discussion that happened a while ago, which was Apu from The Simpsons. And I'm going to be real honest with you. My real opinion about this is simple. I can't say whether or not he is offensive. I want the Indian American community to inform me if they are really, really offended by this. Because what I saw with Apu, and I haven't watched The Simpsons in a very, very long time. I stopped watching it back in college, and that was 18 something years ago. And I don't remember ever watching Apu and thinking this was a bad character. I always thought, matter of fact, I liked him quite a bit, actually. And part of it was the accent. I have a weakness for accents. I have a weakness for cartoon accents. But that aside, I thought he was like this really hardworking character that had his head on straight and would give Homer, who is an idiot, wise advice on a fairly regular basis. Then I started hearing stuff that they're taking Apu off of The Simpsons because he's culturally insensitive or something. And I'm just going like, I know Indian American guys that have accents roughly that thick. Some a little more, some a little less. I don't see it. And I'm kind of in the same boat here with Speedy Gonzalez, where I'm going like, he was like my first Mexican dude. I know he's a mouse. I know he was in a cartoon. I mean, I get it. It's not 1 = 1. It's not like the Hispanic guys that lived next door. But I liked them, and I'm kind of just sitting there going like, why were these characters taken off? It's one thing if it was like, wow, okay, Warner Brothers, Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs. That is a pretty offensive cartoon. It's also really funny at moments, and some of the character design work is really good, and some of the character design work is square out hideously racist, but you can see why people had an issue with it. But with Speedy Gonzalez, I'm going like, he was just a great little hero. I don't quite. I'm having a hard time following the mentality. But on the same note, I really do. I would need. Well, I'll put it this way: the Hispanic fans that I bumped into, some of our friends and people at conventions, and we've had similar conversations to this, and many of them were like, "Yeah, he was like their hero." Like when they were a kid, like he was like the only like Hispanic animated character in America, and so they really liked him. Kind of the same way I was, except in their case they were little Hispanic kids, and so I'm just like, I don't know. I don't want there to be culturally insensitive things out there that are really offensive, but I also have to ask myself, is Speedy Gonzalez really offensive? And I don't. I'm not saying that, for example, as a white person, I don't have an opinion in the matter. But I think the people's opinions that have the most weight is the Hispanic community. And so, like, if I'm offended by this, that's one thing, but I think the people that really count is, like, the Hispanic community. And I'm like, and if they're really offended, they're like, and I mean, like, the vast majority, then I'm not going to argue. I'm like, I'm missing something, but if it's offending you, it's offending you. But I'm having a hard time seeing it because I just loved this character when I was a kid. It's like maybe that ear's a little too big. That ear might be a little too big. Yeah, I think I made that a little too big. It's like we were also talking about Johnny Quest. I try to go back and watch as much of the old stuff as possible, just so I can have some like knowledge. And besides, it's fun. I mean, Johnny Quest is fun, but there's a real kind of learning experience on that one. There's some neat art things that they did, and the storytelling's different. It's just kind of a cool series. And there is some stuff. There's a few moments in there where I was just like, oh, guys, really? I don't think that was acceptable in the 60s, 70s, when it came out. I don't think that was acceptable back then. But it was in the minority. Most of Johnny Quest, I don't think was very offensive. I mean, I could see, I guess, with those couple exceptions, which were, wow, bad. I remember there's one. Yeah, there's one scene where I think Race Bannon called a bunch of South Americans a bunch of brown savages, and I'm going like, dang, no. No, no, don't, no, Race. Don't say that, dude. Don't say that. And I'm just going like, okay, yeah, that's I'm not sure why they thought that was a good idea. I have no clue. But there's a lot of other stuff where, they'll have characters of different races and nationalities and languages and stuff in there, and they're not being portrayed at all badly. And I keep saying this. I say this to all my friends and people, like, we can't have a character like Haji anymore. I'm going to draw Haji one of these days because I love Haji. Haji's a great character, mainly because Johnny Quest would be dead without Haji. You watch the show, you just go like, oh no. Haji's smarter than Johnny. Haji is more clever than Johnny. Haji is more mature than Johnny. Haji is nearly as athletic, and I think that's where Johnny gets him slightly. Johnny's a little better in a fight. Johnny's a little bit more athletic, but Haji's close. And whenever Johnny goes off, you almost get these little moments where the adults are going like, "Is Haji going with you?" All right, you can go. I mean, God, Haji is such a great. And on top of it, the voice actor back then was an Indian American voice actor, so it's not like they, just got a white guy to do it. And they could have. They totally could have. I mean, I don't know. It's just like a lot of people are looking back at some of these shows, with like today's eyes, and they're picking apart every little thing that they're not used to, and I'm kind of going like, perspective, guys. I mean, come on. I love Speedy Gonzalez. I don't, and hey, if he really is offensive, then I could be very well mistaken. But I just don't remember him being all that bad. I mean, especially, if I remember correctly, Bugs Bunny was just sort of a caricature of like the classic New York sort of wise guy, Jewish guy. If I remember correctly, I could be mistaken about that. So, I mean, even Bugs Bunny was sort of a stereotype. But nobody says anything about that. I'm going like, I love Bugs Bunny. I wish and I do. I like the Disney characters too, but man, the Warner Brothers had some of the best. Except maybe Goofy. Goofy might be the one of the Disney ones where I put him really high up. He was funny. But I mean, they were cartoons and they were stereotypes, and some of the stereotypes might have been stereotypes, but they weren't being nasty or mean about it. And it's just a weird conversation to have because I don't know how to. Oh, that's what's wrong. I don't know how to have that conversation because I don't want to sit there and tell people that are offended that they don't have the right, but I'm also kind of going like, are people offended? I don't remember Speedy Gonzalez being at all bad. As you can tell, I'm rambling. There's some stuff that I don't quite understand. I don't fully understand why some of these things are issues. I understand why some things are issues. Don't get me wrong. There's just some stuff in the past where you were like, dang, really? I mean, if you haven't seen Coal Black and the Seven Dwarfs, you watch that and you're like, okay, woo, that's pretty offensive. And maybe I need to go back and, because I have not physically seen Speedy Gonzalez cartoons in 25 years. That's got to be. It's been a long time. I remember I was a little kid last time I saw one because they took them off fairly early on. And so maybe I'm just remembering wrong. I just remember having so much fun with him. Between him, he was one of my favorites. I think I had like 2 or 3 favorites. He was easily one of them. him looking up. I think that'll just kind of. I always liked that, like, he had no concern on his face that I can recall ever. He'd always be like, "Nah, nah, you ain't gonna win," and he'd be off like a bullet. You know, of all the cartoons that they've been doing, and I get it. There's some political issues here, but like when they did Underdog, which was terrible because it wasn't Underdog, and the first Smurfs movie, which was terrible because they put them in New York for literally no reason. It made no sense whatsoever. Of all the cartoons that you could kind of go back, like a visual feast to me would one of them. Okay, Tasmanian Devil would be an obvious one, but Speedy Gonzales, you have a mouse this big moving that fast. It just is funny to me. I don't know what it is. I don't know why. But he is. He's just hilarious. I remember running around doing that. With the arriba, arriba, andale. I would scream that as a kid and run around. I'd laugh because he was so funny. I think most of the other guys I liked were villains for some reason. I loved Wile E. Coyote, and because he's clearly a depraved flesh eater, and Sylvester, a depraved flesh eater. What is up with that? And then Bugs Bunny, and he's really an anti-hero. I'm not. I wouldn't exactly call Bugs Bunny the nicest dude ever. Bugs Bunny will mess you up. There was one, and I think I only saw it once or twice. I was fairly certain Speedy was in it. I was fairly certain. Anyways, it was one where it was with Sylvester, and there was the kangaroo from Australia that looked like they kind of drew it mouse-like, and it was Speedy and the kangaroo, and they were messing with Sylvester. I just remembered laughing so hard at that because Sylvester thought that Speedy kept growing into a giant mouse, and then by the time he started figuring out how to deal with the giant mouse that kept beating him up, he'd shrink back down into the small one. But it wasn't shrinking, it was just he kept running into two different characters that he thought was the same character. Poor Sylvester. I mean, he deserved everything he got, but still. Still so funny. I kind of feel like we have to talk about this stuff, you know? It's like, I want to know. I mean, like at a scientific level, I want to know, not an anecdotal level. I want to know. Is the Hispanic community really offended by this? Because everyone I've talked to is like, they loved Speedy Gonzales. And I just end up going like, I want Speedy cartoons again. I'm sorry, he was freaking hilarious. So good. This is going to sound ridiculous. Keep in mind, this is from the memory of, like, I was like, you know, you can't even see it. I was like this tall. I was a little kid. But, like, and he had, like, and I also grew up on, like, Zorro movies and stuff. So I was, you know, that whole kind of Mexican aesthetic was in my head. And Speedy's girlfriend, which was that little like La Senorita kind of cute little mouse with like the little fan. And did she have a fan? I could be getting that off. But it was just like his girlfriend was like super cute, and his cousin. Okay, politically correct or not, I don't know, but his cousin was like Slowpoke Rodriguez, if I remember correctly. And you know, just did the like really tired, slow, like he was like 1,000th of a speed of a normal person. And I don't know if that's culturally sensitive or not, but as a little kid, it was really funny because you had Speedy and his cousin, which was just slower than a turtle, and you know his super hot girlfriend, and just Speedy always winning. He was like Bugs Bunny. You could never beat him. Such a funny little dude. Oh, I hope I left enough space for this hat. I always thought it was funny. His hat was like the size of like a sail on a sailing ship, and it just never came. I don't remember it ever coming off his head. There we go. It's a little better. Thin that line out a little bit. Just looking a little chunky. Want him to look slick. I was gonna do Pete Puma today, and then I realized I think I want my wife around for Pete Puma. We love Pete Puma. They never used him enough. Pete Puma was funny. Which is really the fascinating thing is they're currently trying to, because I've caught some of the new Looney Tunes and some of the new Disney stuff, and some of it works really well. They've made some big changes, which in some cases is fine, because what are you going to do? The original voice actors aren't around anymore, and blah, blah, blah. And, tastes have changed, so they're going to change things. Totally fine. Some of it's brilliant. But the thing is some of the original stuff was brilliant too. So I'm kind of going like, man, just for all the old people that are watching just the old stuff, I'm going like, guys, check out the new stuff. And for the people who are just seeing the new stuff and aren't seeing the old stuff, I'm like, guys, watch the old stuff. It's all really good and it's different. And I remember as a kid, they didn't show it much after all. It was that whole kids are emulating stuff, and don't show kids this, they might do it. There were episodes of Tom and Jerry where Tom was in the attic and he found boxes of hand grenades from the war. I just remember episodes where they're flinging hand grenades around the house. I'm just going you gotta be kidding me. Why can't we have shows that good anymore? I'm just why is this? Why can't we have this? So good. Let me see here. Try to get a rough measurement. See, actually, this is a good example of what I mean about the fact that they had speed designs. For example, you look at his face and you look at his hat and you're like, well, how big is his hat? And I just did a measurement from the top of his head to his chin is exactly the same measurement as the top of his head to the top of his hat. That's some smart design work right there, because as you're drawing, the dude can literally go draw it, and then do a quick, the classic artist measure where they use the tip of the pencil and their thumb and they do a quick measure, which is what I'm doing literally right now. And then you can just go, and then boom, you know exactly where the line is, and you keep moving. And typically they would then just use very natural kind of lines that would just flow out of them at that point. Okay, and then he's got, right now I'm just trying to get the general feel of his hat about right. I'm not quite getting it. It's what I love when people kind of they don't think of how actually difficult cartooning is. if you don't get these lines just right, there's a huge amount of thought that goes into just lines. And some of it is the result of somebody's hand, that just something naturally flowed. But if you're not that person, you have to figure out like how that line works, and eventually, you know, your hand starts flowing the same way. And I don't think I'm quite getting this right. It's funny, the hardest part about this is not the face, it's the shape of this hat. This is so very specific. It's got a nice flow to it. Well, there's people out there, they're talking about the brush strokes of Van Gogh and stuff, and I'm in here going like, man, that Speedy Gonzalez had the mastery. It's true though. It's I admire these guys. They really. Oh, there we go. I think I didn't make it quite wide enough at the top. The stuff that they could do with literally just flicks of their hand, and they would just get these amazing lines. Okay, I'm going to put his shoulders in, but I'm not going to go too far beyond that. This has got that neckerchief. I don't know the proper term there. That may or may not be an actual Mexican thing. I don't honestly know. But he always has it. I'm not going to claim I'm more cultured than I am. This could be just something that they made up, like in Hollywood, and then they just repeated it in the cartoons. I don't know. Just occurred to me. I'm sitting here drawing a cartoon mouse. In my mind, harmlessly discussing things about cartoon mice. The interesting stuff that has happened historically with cartoon mice. These days, somebody might watch this video and actually get really offended. I'm getting old. I don't understand how things work anymore. Which is sad, because I'm not actually that old. Oh. And for anyone who's wondering, Lashida should be back by the next transmission. She is currently out getting some important family stuff taken care of. Okay, there, top of his ear was bothering me. I think that's why Bob Ross was so effective, no matter what he did. I mean, unless you just hate, I guess, oil paint or froze, maybe. There's just nothing he did that was offensive. I think there's a certain art to that. Just being like that kind of nice and sweet all the time. I don't know, maybe he had an episode where he was like on a bender or something, and he was hideously violent and vile. I don't know, I've never seen it. I just remember him being awesome all the time. That's kind of like my memories of these cartoons. I just end up, that's what's so funny about Speedy Gonzalez to me, is I have all these great memories of these characters, and I just remembered at one point in time just going like, I can't remember how old I was, but I was fairly young, and it's like, no, they're not putting these on TV anymore because they're offensive. And I'm going like, really? I mean, I figured I would understand that when I was adult. I'm like, maybe I'll get that when I'm older. I'm not quite getting it. I don't know, maybe the voice acting was really offensive or something. I don't know. I couldn't tell you. It doesn't make. God, I sound like a broken record today. It just deeply confuses me. Is all I guess. Just be a little flatter across the bottom there. There we go. All right. That hair in there now. There's a long line and a short one. There we go. Yeah, it's not bad. This has been a long, quiet weekend, I tell you what. Been kind of nice. I've been needing one of these. It's been a, I'll tell you what kind of weekend it's been. It's been a Sorceress from Gray Skulls / Speedy Gonzalez weekend. I don't know what the mathematics of that is. I don't know what that actually equates to, other than it's been a pretty good weekend. So I've also had a bit of an interesting. I played video games, have for forever through 30 some whatever years. And I used to actually be not like pro level, but good, like first person shooter, Medal of Honor, put the hurt on some people good. And I'm certain that if I just had the kind of time I used to have, that I could really be still pretty good. The issue I'm bumping into though is, and it's no matter how caffeinated I get, I don't, which is what I love about the Twitch, is I don't have the Twitch reaction that I used to. I mean, I just remember, and there were guys that were better than me, but I was pretty good. And so I've been playing like Fortnite, which is fun, and I've been playing Apex, again, really fun. I wish there was a single player version. I'm kind of not huge on squad play, even though it's probably the best squad play I've done. I think they've done a good job with it. I'm just not a squad person, mostly because I just kind of want to work at my own rhythm in the games. And there's been times where I've done pretty good. Usually because I outthought the opponents, and I was kind of lucky that I didn't get in front of them, because I tell you what, you young whippersnappers have a Twitch reaction that I can't even do anymore. I mean, I used to like land bullets, like 2 or 3 bullets, like right in the middle of someone's forehead. You know, I used to be pretty good, but I just can't do it anymore. So I started playing other games where it's like, well, so that lack of reaction time is not as big. So I started playing World of Tanks, and that's actually pretty good, because you don't have necessarily the same kind of split second lightning kind of spin around, put the bead of your barrel right on the enemy's like eyeball, and just they go down. So that's been good, and I've also done World of Warships, and actually that's the one I've really been enjoying, because everything is careful pre-thought. And so it's actually something where I'm going like, I can compete there. You know, like I'm not actually stuck on the whole like, because man, I've played some dudes where I'm going like, you are supernatural, man. You don't go outside, and I can't compete against that. I can't even get close. Which is a little painful when you used to be pretty good, you know? We got 3 lines here. But yeah, it was actually, I kind of put World of Warships in sort of almost as a, I don't want to say a joke. It was sort of like a, how fun can this be? Let me try it, because I don't have a clue how naval combat would be all that exciting. And then I played it and I started getting it. It was like, oh, this is actually a lot more difficult than you think it would be, and you really have to pre-think out everything that you're doing. Some of those ships move like you're piloting a shopping mall. I mean, they are slow. If you get yourself into a dumb situation, you're probably not going to survive, you know. In short, video games for old people. Jesus. So funny. Hmm. Ain't he cute? funny. I guess if I could find just the right people to play with on Fortnite or Apex, I'd do pretty good. But it always seems like I'm in this weird middle area where I don't suck, but I'm not like the kill monsters I've played with and I've played against these guys, and I'm not going like, I'm gonna kick their butt. I'm like, no, I am running for my life from these dudes. I'm like, I cannot figure out how people are killing so fast in that game. I had at one time, and I was going like, I was feeling like a stud. I was like, yeah, I got up in this spot and I'm hiding and it's right at an intersection, and I've got a character that has like booby traps and bombs, and I've got a big freak machine gun, and suddenly teams are running in, and I'm chucking stuff down there, and gas is going up, and I'm shooting down and throwing grenades, and I'm going like, I'm creating a kill zone. And finally, after this long firefight, they take me down. I'm like, that felt good. I lasted pretty long. I did 120 points of damage. I can't figure out how the heck I was not hitting them. I was shooting them in the top of the heads while dropping grenades on them, and I still wasn't doing any damage. I think I'm cursed. I was like, I just sat there and went, I'm gonna stop playing for today. I was feeling real good until I found out I did nothing. Oh man. I wish I had a replay of that whole fight so I could figure out what the heck happened, because I was going like, this is that moment that you wait for, This is when I look good. I did look good, I just didn't fight good. Yeah, it's so funny. Some kids out there laughing at me right now. I'm going like, yeah, you wait a couple decades, man. See how good your reaction time is. Especially because this is on Twitch, right? There's a reason why I'm not playing video games on this, is streaming network the right term? Service, whatever. I'm like, it's a reason why I'm not playing video games here, because I would be put to shame. I've been watching people. I'm going like, the moment I catch some of the clips of the real good people playing, I just sit back and go like, no, I'm not playing. I saw one clip and I just went, no, you need to go outside and get some fresh air because you've been playing too long. I was watching a Team Fortress 2 clip. I have over 1,000 hours in Team Fortress 2. I might be a little rusty, but if you give me the engineer, I'm pretty good at defending. So I know the game well enough to know that when I saw this shot this guy did, I was going like, no, you need to go outside. It was God, I can't remember the map, but it was a big open area, and there was a soldier way down the range, and the guy was playing a demo man. And the demo man, for those of you at home who do not know, has a grenade launcher. Grenade launchers, once you master them, are really powerful, but they've got an arcing shot, so you've really got to know how to aim to hit things. And usually the closer they are, the easier it is to hit, because you can figure out the arc a little bit easier. Okay, so this dude runs out, looks to his right, dunk, and you just see this soldier way in the background, and this grenade goes and hits right at his feet, throws him up straight into the air. The amazing thing wasn't that. The amazing thing was the guy had already pulled the trigger again, and a second grenade was in midair and hit him in the head in midair. So the soldier was hit, thrown up in the air, and then a grenade landed right in his face. And I just saw that and went, I'm good. I'm like, dude, I'm good. I'm going to concentrate on drawing because I enjoy playing video games, man, but I can't do that. I'm hoping that wasn't a bot that the guy somehow had hooked up. I'm going to assume that it wasn't, because I like to imagine that humans really do these things, and someone wasn't cheap enough to use a bot. It just felt like an actual shot to me, so that's what I'm gonna believe. Maybe it was a bot. I don't know. Um, when I saw that, I was going like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I had one afternoon. It was actually kind of awesome because as good as this dude was, he was being a sport about it. Nothing's, a sore loser, nothing's worse than a sore winner. So this guy was actually being cool about whooping my butt up and down the field. And it was literally just me and him. Everyone else had left. So it was like me, a good player, and this guy, some kind of mutant video game god. Um, Everything I threw at this dude, he had a sniper. He put his gun away. He just pulled the machete out. No matter what I did to this guy, he killed me over and with a machete. He wasn't even hiding. I don't know how you do that. Especially at that point, I didn't suck. I was pretty good. God, I'd love to play video games again like that. Used to be such a rush. Yes, back in the 2000s. The older you get, the faster time moves, and you don't even realize that was nearly 20 years ago, but still, most of the game types are still the same. Except for Fortnite, that's got a lot of new mechanisms in it. And I'll be honest with you, there's a lot about Fortnite that I really like, including some of the construction. But some of the construction kind of ruins the game for me. And I'm not saying that it's bad, I'm just saying for me personally, because I've had to figure out how to fight kids that are good at just building that stuff so quickly. Makes you feel old. But no, it's really interesting. Makes you figure out different tactics against them. Some of the fights that I've won is because they assumed I was going to start building things, and instead I pulled out a classic run and gun game on them. Or my favorite tactic, hide and trick them and use bombs. I'm cheap. The older you get, the cheaper you get. Some people hate playing me. It's not that I try to play cheap, it's just that when you're up against people with Twitch reactions as fast as some of these kids, you just do not have a choice. You do not have a choice. You're going like, I have to play cheap or I'm going to die. Tell you what, I miss those proximity mines from GoldenEye. Ooh, those were one of the sweetest weapons ever made in a video game. I know they're cheap. I know. But nothing slows the enemy momentum down like them knowing you have those suckers on you. When you got people that are really good at just flying around a board and just like picking people off and not worrying where they step, that's actually one of the things that about the new players is a lot of them, they're so good at sliding around like they're on ice and flipping around and just putting that bead right on your head and taking you down so fast. I want a weapon that allows me to put a split second of doubt in their head if it's a good idea that they're running at me. If I had that, it's like smoke is the same way, or I'll use various kinds of bombs and stuff to make them nervous to slow them down so they hopefully make a mistake. I'm not complaining. I'm really saying those kids are good. You have to play dirty to slow them down. The only times that I've really gotten a good fight is where I tricked somebody. My favorite one in Fortnite. It was actually the first or second time I got one of the fortress grenades where you throw a grenade down and the whole fortress goes up. I had this dude on me and he was putting shells in my back and I was in trouble. So I threw it down and looked like I ran into it, to protect myself, and then just kept going and keeping the fortress in between me and him. And I'm like looking back and this like murder machine is just sieging hell on the fortress. I'm going like, oh, thank God he fell for it. Yep, Ran like a coward. One of my favorite moves. It's the coward's run. Highly effective. Stuck in a, and she's not at work anymore. She used to work with me. She's on Twitch right now. She's got a pretty good following, and she's like, "You hide in ambush, don't you?" I'm like, "Oh yeah, 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 yeah." People hate me. Hmm. They used to have a. I actually kind of wish that this would have turned into more of a permanent game, but there was sort of a. They used to play a lot of Medal of Honor, and this was quite a ways back. That was a good game. It's very out of date at this point, but it was so simple and pure and straightforward. It was just a really good game, and you could set up your servers any way you wanted to. Blah blah blah. So there were run and gun servers where people just run around with machine guns, and the ones I loved were called tactical servers. That's one where you would get onto a map and you weren't hearing boom, 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 boom. You heard nothing. And then every once in a while you just heard a and then like a death count would go off. So it's for all the people who are really, really good at hiding, really, really good at creating kill zones, really good at slowly sneaking and catching people and blah. Oh, it's so fun because it was like lethal hide and seek. I get it, run and gun is fun. Do not mistake me. There's a lot of run and gunners in Fortnite that just I'm in awe of. But I love that slow, methodical, tactical set a trap, create a kill zone, sucker people into an area where you put explosives down. Oh, that's a good time. And I just kind of would love a game like that. This is why I think you could kind of do it with Apex, but you have to play with squads. Which kind of ruins it because you can't sneak around and be careful when suddenly a random member of your squad is, no offense, 13-year-olds on caffeine, but as a 13-year-old on caffeine and is just acting like a total jackass. Or what's even worse, they think they're a superhero, so they go running out into a firefight, and you have to go rescue them, and you're like, well, there goes my good, sniping position, ambush area, blah, blah, blah. As I have to go save his butt now, and not trying to sound like I'm complaining. I'm just saying that it's a certain way I like to play, and a lot of games aren't kind of tuned to it. Like those tactical servers on Medal of Honor, man, those were primo. Those were fun because it wasn't. Okay, it was a kill spree. It's that kind of a game, but it wasn't like a kill spree. It was lethal hide and seek, and there was a certain amount of thriller tension to that. That is just tasty. And a lot of the games now, and which by the way, in Apex it's great because you custom these weapons and stuff during the game, and if you get just the right combination, you get super lethal stuff. But if you don't know the combinations, you can end up with kind of a mediocre weapon. That's usually my problem. I don't end up with a really good weapon, and I suck. Here we go. Sorry, got a nostril situation there. But in the old games, not that they were better, they're just a different way of handling it because a lot of the new stuff is good. But you'd get like Medal of Honor, and the M1 Garand was one of my favorite weapons in there. And you can get machine guns and submachine guns and missile launchers and yada yada. But there were weapons in there where everything was so straightforward that once you got a certain weapon and you got used to it, you could do the old samurai thing and know your weapon really well. And that's kind of the thing I'm bumping into in a lot of the new games is that's why I like Team Fortress 2 as well, because you got to know your weapon well on your character. is with Apex, there's a lot of massive weapon choices in Fortnite, and it's both good, but it's I can't seem to perfect any way of really using the weapons because it's different like almost every single time. And Fortnite's the same way where you've got such a massive variety of weaponry. I think it's actually a little better in Fortnite because the variety isn't as big, so you can start getting pretty good with a small, reasonable number of weapons. Apex, the combination of weapons is tough for me to deal with. I'll put it that way. Get a shadow under here. Kind of in the mood for playing games, but bumping into that old guy situation. I don't have to win. I just don't want to get my butt handed to me. That's why I got out of Overwatch. Overwatch was cool. I loved. There was characters in there that were fun. The design was amazing. Finally started figuring out characters I was pretty good at playing. But it's the way Blizzard puts their games together. They kind of seem to build in a... They seem to build in a mechanism to guarantee that one side wins. So it's like instead of having a... It's like they don't like draws, which I understand. I understand why they don't like draws, but they seem to have done the algorithm that once one side starts winning, they really start winning, and then you get an avalanche of a victory. And that kind of, I like that nuanced struggle for survival in the game. And Blizzard has a tendency of making, like, once you start winning, it's a tidal wave of a win. That doesn't impress me. I always love it when it comes down to just the who's gonna, oh, there was the last little grain of effort to get the victory. And so in Overwatch, I'd be playing games and I'd just be going like, I mean, I'm not as good as I used to be, but I don't totally suck. And there were times where I would step out of the spawn and I was dead in under 2 seconds. Something is wrong with the game balance. And by the way, the enemy wasn't necessarily spawn killing. That was the thing. I'd just be like, because there would just be so much stuff going off that was so lethal that could kill in singular hits that I was going like, I don't have a ton of time to play games or do anything else anymore because I got stuff I gotta do. So when you're playing games where suddenly you're just wiped out like that, and you're not that bad of a player, you're kind of like, bring down the kill monster ability on some of these characters just a little bit. Because when that stuff wasn't going on, man, I was having fun with Overwatch. There was legitimately, was it Bastion? I think it was Bastion, the robot. I had a bunch of fun with him. And I think it was Osiris, I think was the other robot, the big kind of female African kind of police robot. That one was really cool. And there was a number of the other ones that I just plain out enjoyed playing. That dwarven engineer type character I thought was really fun. Some of the characters you were just like, not my style. Someone wants to play them, go ahead, that's cool. But I just got to a point where I was just going like, when you die like 5 or 6 times in a row and you can't even identify what hit you. I'm just saying, that don't sit right with me, I'll put it that way. But it's a beautiful game. I wish, for my purposes, I'm not saying they did a terrible job. I think they did a great job. But clearly I wasn't compatible with it. I wish I was, because man, when it was going good, I was having fun. But there were just times where I was going like, why did I just die? My wife would be watching. She's like, I'm not even sure how you died. I'm going like, what happened? Why are these characters suddenly impossibly powerful and impossible to kill? I suck, but I don't suck that bad, you know? Oh, so funny. I had a good time though, but when I was getting near the end of playing Overwatch, I was just like, it really felt. Trying not to sound like a spoil sport, but it felt like there were real balance issues in it, and plus that Blizzard thing where they really don't want a tie; they want a definite victory. I swear it's something in the algorithms. I've seen it in multiple of their games where I was just going like, so I used to play StarCraft online, there was this. You'd get these points where you're just going like, I ain't gonna win no matter how hard I try. Once you kind of get past that point, you're like, there's no point in me playing anymore. You're not gonna do it. And I was actually pretty good at StarCraft too, but oh well, whatever. Whatevs. Give him a pupil. Let's make sure he's got like super dark eyes, because he's a mouse. Mice got super dark eyes, but I want to give him a little pupil. Give him some eyelashes. Not big eyelashes, but eyelashes. It just occurred to me. My generation is going to have like retirement homes filled with video game players. It's going to be funny. You have like arcades for old people in them. Oh, that is so awesome. That's not bad. Darkening some of these edge lines a little bit. That's not too bad. It's a pretty decent Speedy. I don't care what anyone says, Speedy. I still love you. I hope you aren't actually racially insensitive. I actually really like you. I like you, Speedy Gonzalez. I don't care what anyone else says. You're an awesome little dude. Alright, well. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. My transmission's over there. I can actually see what I'm doing on screen. Anywho, everyone have yourself a good week. I'm going to attempt to stay on my schedule. I have this problem called a real actual job, and sometimes it is a freaking bear. Not soul crushing, just tiring. Like you got a lot of. You just got some weeks where you got a lot of work. But what I'm going to be trying to do is 4:00 p.m. Saturday and Sunday. I'm going to be working up to hopefully being able to do some transmissions during the week. And I'm attempting to do my Mr. Rogers bit, but apparently it has become the riddle of the Sphinx. Alright, hang in there, do that. Alright, and then we do the whole... Ha-ha! No! There we go. I can operate a wooden box. Okay. Boom. Boom. Everyone have yourself a good week. I will catch you later.